the Northwest home for paranormal, you're listening to U.S. Phenomenon with your host, Mario Magana.
From the Pacific Northwest in the shadow of the 1962 World's Fair, the Space Needle. Good evening. I am your host, Mario Magana. This is U.S. Phenomenon, where we explore the extraordinary and the unexplained. Tonight, we discuss what happens to us when we die. Do we reincarnate? Do we see our loved ones again? Have you ever had a dream about a lost loved one, or felt that presence of those who have passed on and experienced them, felt like they were right there with you? The unexplainable, like the you felt like they were present with you. Tonight, our guest author, June Edward, claims that she has the ability to share with you how to communicate with our departed loved ones and how this can vastly improve our lives. You know, as I think about this, of all my loved ones that have left us, and I'm sure you're the same way, you're thinking, how can I do this? It is my pleasure. Before we introduce her, she has a couple books out. I'm so excited to have her join us here. All's Fair, Love and Karma, and 5 Steps to Relationship Mastery. It is my honor to bring to U.S. Phenomenon our guest, June Edwards. Welcome to U.S. Phenomenon.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You know, it's crazy to think that, when our loved ones leave us and, we grieve. Everyone grieves, and we're like the tangible of like, where do we go? Do we reincarnate? Do we go to heaven or hell and we find our loved ones there, maybe waiting for us, or maybe they're not waiting for us because maybe we were so bad that we end up in the dooms of hell where we live and burn forever and fiery, whatever the case may be, where people are like, oh yeah, guess what, Maria, you were so bad that you're going to hell. June, what got you into the psychic ability? Where did this first start for you?
So I was born with a lot of ability. Everyone has ability. Everyone has psychic ability and mediumship ability. It's a matter of developing it. It's that simple. And the society that we live in kind of makes it stigmatized so that the people that have the abilities kind of stay in the corners. But as a child, I had a lot of abilities, and I would wake up in the morning and there'd be people around my bed, and I'd know everything that was going to happen before it happens. And I was very afraid of it, and I blocked it for most of my life the best that I could. And I always believed that there was a higher power, like everyone else. But even though I was seeing things, I was one of the biggest skeptics there is, believe me. And then I died at 27 due to a medical emergency. And I went to heaven. I went to the other side. And it's pretty hard to deny it once something like that happens to you.
And for those who have not had that experience, when you talk about the psychic ability at a very young age, is it something that we all have from a very young age? Is it like muscle mass where if we have it, let's say we all have this psychic ability, how do we tap into that?
So it's kind of like playing a piano, okay? Some people sit down and they just can play chopsticks because everybody has ability. Some people want to learn a little bit more and they'll teach themselves a couple of songs. Other people have a lot of talent and they want to do it for a living and they can become concert pianists. And then you have your child prodigies that just sit down and play Mozart. And that's what I was like. I just was born with a lot of ability to begin with. And I believe it was enhanced when I died, because when you think of the speed of light and going into that light, it raises your vibration exponentially. So the fastest way to tap into anyone's psychic ability is by raising your vibration. How do you do that? Joy, happiness, laughter. But the best and easiest way is through proper meditation. Because when you meditate, you're getting in touch with your soul. You're getting out of this body and away from your brain. Your brain is a tool that's there to protect you. And how does it do that? It does it by creating fear. So you can't get in touch with your soul and you can't get in touch with love when you're in fear, because the opposite of love is fear, not hate. And your soul is way too big for this body. Some of it's in your body. Some of it's over your body that people can see, and they call it an aura. And the largest part of your soul is actually in the lowest level of heaven, that fifth dimension. And it orchestrates the timing of all the events that are happening in your life here. And it holds all the knowledge of all of your lifetimes. So when you meditate and you're getting in touch with your soul, it's not just the part that's inside of you. You're getting in touch with that part of your soul that's on the other side. And again, it starts raising your vibration exponentially. And thoughts are things. You know, everyone's thought of someone and they've suddenly either run into them or they called right out of the blue. Thoughts are things. We're all energetic beings. That's all we are. And where your thoughts go, your energy flows. This is how psychic abilities work. And then when you start getting into mediumship, it's just a matter of you observing, paying attention to the ones that are on the other side coming to visit you, because honestly, they're all around us. And as soon as you say someone's name or think of them, they show up immediately. And when we're in this human body having an experience, we see certain things because we train ourselves to, for the most part. You have people that are colorblind. Color doesn't really exist. We see color because of the way light refracts off of an object and the shape of our eyes that pick them up. Animals, for the most part, are colorblind, but they can see energy better than we can. When you start training yourself to pick up energy and learn how energy works, you will start seeing things more than you normally do.
Our guest, June Edwards, Edward, why I always want to put the S on that. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one. My author of All Fair, Love and Karma, for those who are skeptic, those who may be religious or listening this evening, how do we explain to them who kind of, I don't want to say frown upon the medium, but are curious? And I know I'll just be, business for religion, right? I know that there are some very historical pieces that have moved away. The church had moved away from astrology and things of that nature. And, because of the fear of, not looking great for businesses, for church. Do you get a lot of people who may be religious coming to you?
So there's 17,600 Christian religions just in the United States. There's 170 something thousand religions around the world. They're all right. They're all wrong. They all serve a purpose. That's the reality of it. I can only help those people that are ready to hear the message,
Sure.
and hear what it is that I want to say and need to say. And if it resonates with them, that's wonderful. I can't help everyone. A lot of people are stuck in their 3D brain, and that's it. And they believe everything they're told, and that's how they live their life. But a lot of people are also on the verge of awakening and realizing that they've been programmed through life by the church as well as media and everything else, and that there's a lot more beyond. Even all the atheists that are out there, I've never seen an atheist on their deathbed, I'll tell you right now. The closer you get to meeting your maker, the more curious you get and the more you want to know and the more you start to see. I've seen several people on their deathbed who are getting very close to passing and will start to then see the people from the other side. Why is that happening at that time? Because their brain stops blocking. The fear stops blocking it. My dad was 93 and dying. And one day he says to me, "Oh, I want to know a little bit more about you, what you do." And I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting because you told me it was a big joke.
Sure.
What would you like to know?" He goes, "Well, I want to know why every morning I wake up and I see my mother standing next to my bed." I said, well, it's about time, Dad. She's been standing there for about a year. She's here all the time. He goes, well, that's not really what I want to know. I said, well, what do you want to know? I want to know why she disappears after a few seconds after I wake up. I said, Dad, she hasn't disappeared. She's still standing here right next to me. I said, she's going to help you transition when it's your time to go to the other side. I said, the reason that you can't see her is because your brain can't believe that you're really seeing her and you're blocking it out of fear. So when you stop doing that, you'll actually be able to see that she's still standing here.
It's cool that you, when you talk about just I want to say like the 200-foot level of what we all do, because I mean, think about it. When I go to bed or anybody goes to bed, of course, I'm like, I don't want to see ghosts. We put up our blinders or whatever, or even like going through life in general, someone's crying for help. You see something, but you're like, I'm not seeing anything.
And that's most people. They see what they want to see, right?
Sure. And especially when you talk about that extra dimension, because for most of us, we just see this plane, right? We may have our dreams. And I typically don't bring this up, but I was having a conversation with my dad about, we were attending a family funeral recently. And what's interesting is we all went as a family together to go up for the trip. We were having a great time as a family, but to hear stories of my dad having these traumatic nightmares, like night terrors where he's screaming and fight. I'm like, what are you taking at night that you're having these types of dreams? What do you tell someone who dreams that are that horrific?
So a few things happen at night when you go to sleep. First of all, your vibration actually rises and more of your soul leaves your body. So there's a difference between a dream and a visit. If it feels real, you wake up right away and you remember everything. That's a visit, not a dream from the other side. Excuse me. The other thing that happens is this, and I just spoke to another medium the other day who was having the same issue. She was having severe night terrors and being attacked in her sleep. So that really is a demonic attack that's happening. And if you're not paying attention during the day to things and messages that they're trying to get to you, then they will do that at night when you're sleeping, because it's the only time that they can get to you. So it's very important, number one, to pay attention to what's happening during the day. And number two, protect yourself before you go to sleep at night so that you're not vulnerable to any of these lower vibrational entities or demonic entities that are trying to attach to your soul or your spirit.
And what would I do, or what would someone who's listening to us or watching us, how do we protect ourselves at night? How would I go about, like, besides being an old school Catholic dude, smoking out the house with sage?
So I'll be honest, there's a lot of things in the dark. I've seen demons. I've seen all these low vibrational entities. I used to wake up in the morning with them around my bed. So first of all, I don't sleep in the dark. I have a nightlight on in every room, and so that it keeps those things at bay. But I also call on Archangel Michael before I go to bed at night and ask him to protect me and keep away any harm, any danger, any low vibrational entities. And I sleep like a baby every night. My head hits that pillow and I'm out.
Our guest this evening, June Edwards, he is the author of All Fair, Love, and Karma. Before we get into the book, it's just interesting to me because to hear that, and we were kind of all like joking around, and we're like, what kind of melatonin are you taking? What kind of magnesium? Everyone's taking these things. Even my daughter was explaining the other day. She was like, I had this really bad dream. She's like, I took X amount of melatonin at night. Well, how many gummies did you take? Well,
sometimes it's just a message too. So what you really need to do, find somebody that does dream interpretation, or anything out of the ordinary that's happening to you during the day is a message. Suppose you're sitting there in your car and all of a sudden a flock of turkeys comes across the front, walking across the street, or some deer come walking in front of your car. That is literally a message from the other side. So you need to look it up. What's the spiritual meaning of a flock of turkeys or spiritual meaning of deer? And you'll get 2 or 3 meanings, and it's the one that resonates with you is the message they're trying to give you from the other side.
And not my favorite band, Flock of Seagulls, but yeah, it's interesting to me. People can go to you. You have a website. If someone is needing help, maybe they are having these night terrors. They can go to your website and they can book an appointment with you or spend some time with you to maybe figure out what and navigate these things, right? Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So they can go to your website at juneedward.com. Is that correct?
Correct. Everybody has something going on in their life that they just need to either talk to somebody about or figure out what's going on. Or maybe sometimes you just are a little confused on why certain things are happening in your life. And I can always give you clarity to that in different ways.
What do you say to someone like, I'll just ask it. I haven't seen my grandma in, I don't know, maybe it's been a long time. I think she passed away early 2001. I haven't seen her since then. My grandfather, all my grandparents have been long gone. I don't have any dreams of them. I don't typically see them. I know there've been times where I've that's interesting. Where you think you have a guardian angel where you're in a situation and you're like, how the hell did I get through that situation without something happening to me? And so it's always interesting for those who don't, like myself, who don't see anybody around us. What do you say to someone like myself?
So first of all, it's kind of like a 2-way mirror. Okay. They can see you, they can hear you. A lot of them can even slow their energy down enough to touch you or move things. And it's like they're banging on the glass saying, can't you see me? Don't you know I'm here? It's very frustrating for them on the other side.
Sure.
As soon as you think about them or talk about them, they show up, just like your grandparents. They're now here because you talked about them.
Sure.
So we all have a guardian angel, which is not an angel, by the way. An angel is a completely separate race. Their entire existence is to help us, but there are rules on the other side, just as there are rules here, and they can't help you unless you ask. If you ask, they will help you immediately, but you have to ask. Your guardian angel, however, is usually someone who was connected to you somehow in life, okay? A great grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, someone, and they step up prior to your birth and offer to be your guardian angel. And they can step in at any time if you need help. Sometimes, you're on an icy road and you swear someone took the wheel and got you through it. That would have been your guardian angel. Now, guardian angels can change as well. Let's say, for instance, you had a best friend that died and they wanted to step up and protect you. They can become your guardian angel on the other side, and your original guardian angel will step back and oversee it. So technically you'll have 2 guardian angels at that point, which is really nice. Just a lot of extra protection.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's almost like having a posse of guardian angels here.
Yeah. And everyone on the other side really is there to help you. Nothing in this life is ever happening to you. It's always happening for you. So you have to understand that. You wrote this story. You wrote your path and what's going to happen in your life. And if you start getting off that path, this is when things happen. Suppose you were supposed to move to the East Coast because you had, a job offer, but that's where we were going to meet the love of your life and have children and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I'm not moving. I don't want to go out there. It's not going to happen. Well, if that's what was supposed to happen, the universe is going to step in and they may have to do something drastic. Maybe you lose your job. Maybe you lose your house. Maybe you lose everything. So it's like, I might as well go. They're going to put you where you're supposed to be. And then when you look back, it's like, it was a tragedy when it happened to you, but then you're like, well, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have met this one. I wouldn't have gotten that job. I wouldn't have had these kids. This is how your life works. Everything's interconnected and there's no accidents.
Do our guardian angels also step in regards to relationships, things of that nature with, loved ones? Let's say you're in a terrible marriage or you're getting into a relationship with somebody and you're like, love is blind. We're like going through this, tumultuous relationship. We don't typically see like the ugly.
Well, nothing's blind and everything happens for a reason, and they're not going to step in because that's one of your lessons. My book, All's Fair in Love and Karma, speaks to the 5 lessons our soul has to learn in order to advance on the other side. And we learn those lessons faster within relationships. And everything's a relationship. You're in a relationship with your children, your parents, your coworkers, your employees, your employer. You're in a relationship with everyone. And for a reason. You're either collecting a karmic debt, paying a karmic debt, but you're there to learn the 5 lessons. And you can keep repeating the same relationship over and over again. If you're in an abusive relationship and you just keep getting into the next one and the next one and the next one, most likely you needed to learn self-worth. That is one of the biggest lessons people need to learn. Self-worth, trust and communication, unconditional love, money and balance. Money is energy. That's why it's called currency. And it's what we use in this 3D world to show whether or not your life is in balance. And patience, because everything happens when it's supposed to happen, not when you want it to happen.
And what happens to someone who tragically passes away at a very young age, or just, happens to be in a car accident or something of that nature, and they leave? I don't like that. Their time came, right? Is that really?
So you can die outside of your life plan. Okay. It does happen. For some people, it's tragic. I remember when I first started doing this work, and I was actually at a church donating the money, and 2 weeks in a row, I had these 3 girls coming in. They were the same 3 girls with 2 different people. It happened to be one was the mother, one was the aunt. I had no idea until the second one told me. But these 3 girls had gotten into a car with a drunk driver, and tragically, everyone in the car was killed. And only 2 of the girls died outside their life plan. One of them was her plan was to die in an accident that way. She had written it into her thing, but the other 2 did not. They died outside of their plan. They had remorse for it. They knew they shouldn't have gotten into the car. Their parents always told them, call them in the event of an emergency. And they just felt terrible. They're not stuck. Unless the parents are stuck in grief. They're not stuck. They'll just continue on the way they would have. But the angels have to now suddenly jump in and fix all the connections that they would have had. This is why suicide is never an acceptable out, and it's never written into your life plan, because they have to come back now and fix all those connections that you were supposed to have.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I know that suicide is a tough one for those who have lost family members. In the podcast, we will put a link to the suicide hotline. If you're having issues or if you need help, we'll have it linked in the podcast. Our guest this evening, June Edward, she is the author of All's Fair, Love and Karma. And when you talk about life plan, I was just thinking about this. Can we change our life plan? Can it be altered?
Well, you're always kind of changing it a little bit, because the universe wants you to think you have free choice, right? Free will. So the universe is going to offer you door 1, 2, and 3. You take door 1, you go through it, you get married, you have a couple of kids, you get divorced. Where are you going to be? In front of door 1, 2, and 3. Most people, they're creatures of habit. They're going to take door 1 again. You're going to go through it. You're going to get married. You're going to have more kids. You're going to get divorced again. You're going to be in front of door 1, 2, and 3. You can keep that life plan going and that little revolving door your whole life if you want, because you haven't learned the lesson you're supposed to learn.
That's an expensive one for sure.
Right. But if you learn the lesson you're supposed to learn, you're going to take door 2 or door 3 and move on. And you may still get married and have more children, but it won't end in a divorce the reason the other ones did, because you learned the lesson you were supposed to learn. So when you're altering your life plan, all you're giving are little offshoots to your life plan. They're still all going to lead you back to the same place eventually.
I love that we have options in life. And I think that as we continue to evolve as humans, and we're learning that sometimes at our own expense, would that happen to be karma? Would that, when you say all All's love, fair, and karma.
All's fair in love and karma. So karma is what we create in this lifetime. If you do something to someone else and you do not have remorse and you do not make amends, you now owe a karmic debt to that person, that soul, in a next lifetime. Same thing if they do the same thing to you, you have a karmic debt that they owe you. So karma is not a bad thing. And when someone comes back, there's a difference between a karmic relationship and a soulmate relationship. A karmic relationship never really feels quite right. You're looking for the red flags. You're waiting for that shoe to drop. And as soon as one or the other learns the lesson they're supposed to be learning, that relationship ends immediately. It's like you wake up one morning and say, why do I have this person in my life? And it doesn't matter if it's a family member, a friend, or a lover. It's the same thing. They're paying a karmic debt or they're collecting a karmic debt. A soulmate relationship, on the other hand, maybe you got a best buddy and you just know, you feel so close, like you've known them, not just this lifetime, but many lifetimes. Maybe you have. Soulmate relationship is still here to teach you something or for you to learn something, but they don't have to end once the lesson is learned. Okay, they can continue on and last your whole lifetime sometimes.
What do we say to someone who has been? I'm just going to put. What about those who have been divorced for such a long time? They can't seem to find love. What do people come to you for that relationship advice?
They do, absolutely. I have a 7-week program called the Relationship Mastery Program, and it was designed originally to help reconcile couples that were having issues by working with one person in the relationship. I don't believe in working with two people. It only takes one person to make or break anything in life, because for every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. And when you change, everything in your life changes. And it's all about how your energy works. You're either attracting or repelling at any given time in your life. So when you change your vibration and start attracting better, you can start, and when you learn how energy works and how the universe works, it's the old law of attraction. When you understand that, you can attract anything you want in your life, but you have to be clear about it to the universe, because they're always, as soon as you ask for something, they're conspiring on the other side to bring it all to you. They just want you to be happy and have what it is you want and need in this lifetime. And when you understand that and you start working with the energy, it's like Christmas every day. It's just incredible.
When you say, your how you present yourself, or how people who have really bad divorces, people who continue to have, like, maybe they're still upset at their ex-wife or their partner or their ex-husband or whoever, the relationship ends bad. They have a problem with their ex and they seem to hold on to this sense of whatever, like they're still upset about it. Why do people still seem to not
because they're stuck in their head? You're stuck in your brain. Everything in life is perspective. There's really nothing that's ever bad in life. It's all in how you look at it. So the marriage ended. Did you end up with beautiful children out of it? Maybe that was the whole reason that the two of you got together. Maybe it was just a karmic relationship and was only to have the children.
But no, for sure, 100%. It's just interesting. And I say this out loud because I think a lot of people in general don't typically think this way. And I think that in life, if you hold on to these, whatever they may be, these bad pieces where you're like, oh, I'm not happy with my ex is this or that. Learn how to heal from that situation. At least that's how I look at it. And I wanted to bring it to the forefront because I think in society, I think a lot of people don't know how to forgive in life. So they hold on to that. And
again, and how it all has to do with your energy and your perspective and not living in the now, living in the past, right? Or living in the future. That's, if you're living in the past, you're living in regret and loss. If you're living for the future, you're living with anxiety. The only way to really live your life is to live for today and live in the now, because this is all you promised. No one tells you you're going to have tomorrow, do they? No. And, when anybody else thinks of you is none of your business. That's their life. That's on them. That's got nothing to do with you. You have to learn how to focus on yourself. You have to understand your own self-worth, which is not value. That's what other people place on you. It's understanding that you're so important in this lifetime that you're the only one there is. And learn how to put yourself first. Because if you don't put yourself first, you're not going to be here for anybody else, are you? Everyone thinks it's narcissistic for you to put yourself first because we live in this society that, this is what they want you to think and be guilty over it. No, you're here for you. This is your life. No one can make you happy but you. That's on you. And when you're happy, your happiness will ping pong off of everyone else's, and your vibration will rise, and you'll start attracting happier people into your life. Again, it's how you look at things. There is nothing it's really negative in this world or in this life. It's your perspective of it. It's that simple.
And those who may be listening and like, I know in the last couple of weeks, people are probably in this like sense of doomsday of like life in general. Maybe they weren't happy about outcomes of certain things. What do you explain? What do you tell someone like that who is out here? They're like, oh my gosh, the world's going to end.
There's a divine plan. If the world ends tomorrow, good luck. You'll be on the other side, and it's just as more amazing there than it is here. Live your life. Stop fixating on things that you have no control over. You have control over your actions and your reactions, and that's what you're responsible for. And if you want to be happy and enjoy the life that you've been given, then start focusing on your happiness and doing the things that you enjoy and raising your vibration and how wonderful this world is, because it is. It's amazing. And there are miracles that happen every day all around you. Stop focusing on that.
Our guest this evening, June Edward, author of All's Fair, Love and Karma. I gotta, when you were talking about earlier about how you tragically went to the other side, you passed away and came back. What is that like?
It's amazing. I've talked to quite a few people that have passed to the other side and have some people have different experiences, but a lot of people, their experience is very similar. I went to heaven when I went to the other side. I went to what I now know to be the lowest level of heaven, the fifth dimension. And I was given a full life review. It was like sitting in front of an IMAX theater in the front row and watching everything that was important to me, the people that were important, the wonderful times that I had just play out in front of me. And it was just a sense of love and peace. It was just incredible. And I used to say that the only two things you take with you when you go to the other side is love and knowledge. But now when I do this work, I understand that we take all of our feelings with us to the other side, because I've brought many souls through. They're still living in despair and anger and hurt and things like that. So maybe it was just because I choose to live my life in love that's what I was experiencing, was just immense love on the other side. And I came back here. I was told that I had a choice, that it was not my time. I could stay or I could come back. It was up to me. And the only reason that I came back was for my two children at the time that were very young. And I had a third one when I came back. But if it weren't for them, I would have stayed, quite honestly. It's just incredible on the other side. You can do anything you want. You can see anything you want. You can travel back in time. You can live vicariously through the people that are here, because you don't have a body. So you're not experiencing any pain or hurt. It's just an incredible feeling. And yes, we do reincarnate, but time is relative. Time is much slower here than on the other side. It's about 3.5 to 4 years for us to a year on the other side. So we don't choose to come back until everyone we know, plus a few generations, are gone, and we're not connected anymore to anything that was our past life. Then we choose to come back. So about 350 to 400 years, although there are exceptions to everything. And that, we come back for different reasons. We come back to have a little mini vacation, because when you're on the other side and you don't have a body, you can't taste, you can't smell, you can't do the things that you can do with a body here, right? You can't have sex. We also come back to collect our karmic debts that we are owed from other people, and pay our karmic debts back and help others learn their 5 lessons that they have to learn for their soul to advance. There are different levels of heaven, and as your soul advances, you move up those levels. And we're all here to help each other. People forget that. We are not an island. No one got what they did alone. Okay, you weren't born and suddenly left by yourself. People loved you. People took care of you. And maybe they didn't do it to the extent that you wanted them to, but it all happened for a reason, because every experience that you went through shaped you into who you are. And I can speak to that because I had a very horrible, terrible upbringing. And I used to always joke, for everything that I've been through in life, I should hit the lottery and win $1 million. Well, you know what? I've hit the lottery every single solitary day that I'm alive, and I see and the people and the love and the beauty. Every day I win that lottery over and over again. I'm extremely grateful. And the more grateful you are, the more the angels and the universe brings you. And this is how it works.
And for those who are not believers of the next life, where they think once we die, we die. I mean, you have, there are people that are out there that also believe that this is it. This is all we have. It's awesome that we have an opportunity to talk with you, for you to share your experiences with us, giving those who are listening, driving somewhere right now on one of our radio stations across the Pacific Northwest, an opportunity to say to themselves, like, what if? This is the best thing. I find I am so fascinated by our conversations this evening about how awesome what you've experienced, what you're sharing with us, me, is priceless. It's so cool, because I don't know about a different dimension. I mean, before we sat down to have this conversation, I'm like, what research am I really going to do? And I'm like, you know what? Do what you always do. Have a conversation, be honest, be real, ask questions. And what's interesting, I didn't know that there were different levels and different degrees of heaven. The fifth degree, to me, it's for those who may be non-believers of anything, where they're like, that's it, the lights, you pass away and that's it. How do we talk to them? How do we open their minds to this?
It's funny, because I had a friend of mine who's been a friend of mine for over 30 years, never knew he was an atheist. And he's been very successful in this life. He owns a chain of restaurants. He's a great guy, very friendly, very happy, very high vibration. But his perspective was that we're like ants, and once we're dead, we're gone. I'm like, oh my God, no, this is not the case. So I explained to him about, that I died and things like that. And he's like, well, I don't know. He goes, I still don't believe it. I think we're ants. So fast forward, I hadn't seen him in a couple of years, stopped in, and I said, so tell me, do you still believe that we're like ants? Are you still an atheist? He's like, oh no. I said, he goes, I believe everything you told me. I said, really? I said, what happened? He goes, I can't talk about it. Something happened, but I'm not ready to talk about it. And I'm like, wow, that's great. So yeah, a lot of people are going to have an experience. And if you open your eyes and you pay attention, you will see, like I said, miracles happen every single solitary day around us, things that you can't explain. Do you know that bumblebees aren't supposed to be able to fly?
I had no idea.
My son is a pilot. He went through the Air Force, and he's an aeronautical engineer. So I had to ask him one day. I said, well, Mr. Brainiac, what did they tell you about bumblebees? Because bumblebees aerodynamically are not supposed to be able to fly. Their body is way too big. Their wings are way too small. And he looked at me, he goes, they don't really know. But they tried to tell us that it has something to do with an updraft. He goes, but they fly and there's no wind. I'm like, absolutely. They are a miracle. No one told them they can't fly. They fly.
And the lovely thing about bumblebees is they bring us a sweet treat. They have a.
Well, be honeybees. I don't know if bumblebees make honey, but right. but they're a miracle. And the miracles are around us. The sun comes up every day. It's a miracle. How are we living? How are we breathing? Everything. It's interesting because you can't see air, right? You can't see the air, but it's there, isn't it? We're breathing it.
Right.
You can't see energy, but the microwaves are cooking your food, aren't they? When you hit that button.
Sure.
Right.
That popcorn. You want
exactly.
It's doing its thing.
So energy is real, and it's what we're all made of. And angels are real. Ascended masters are real. Guides on the other side are real. You cannot destroy energy. You can only create it or change it. So when we leave this body behind, our soul is pure energy, and it continues on with the same knowledge and everything that you have now, just more of it.
Our guest this evening, June Edward, author of All Fair, Love, and Karma. Are we the only ones on this celestial plane?
No, we're not. It's interesting with all the talk. The government's going to come out and tell us about, they're not UFOs anymore. They're UAPs, right? It's this, it's that.
Hey, we just did 2 shows on it recently. But
yeah. So, yes, when you start seeing energy, you'll start seeing all kinds of things. And yes, they live amongst us. I read Akashic Records, which is your book of life. Everyone has one, and it's all your past lives. And I got to that place where it's held in the 5th dimension accidentally one time in a meditation. And the entity that guards those books and helps me get an individual's book is a Palladian, which I had no idea what a Palladian was either. I came out of my meditation and everybody's like, well, what happened? What'd you do? And I'm explaining it. And they're like, oh, you went to the Akashic record room, which I never heard of. Right. And I'm explaining this entity that helped me. And they're like, oh, he's a Palladian. And I'm like, I never heard. Now I got to look that up and say, who the heck's a Palladian? They're from another planet. And, I did do a reading once for a woman who had been abducted multiple times by aliens, and she wanted to know why she keeps getting abducted. She's like, I'm not crazy. And I had no one else to ask the information other than this Palladian that gets me the books all the time. So I asked him, and she had learned a new healing modality of energy. And because we're human and we have brains, we don't remember things all the time. And she kept forgetting things, and she wasn't putting it in writing into a book format. She just kept teaching a few people here and there. And this is why she kept getting abducted, because they had to keep giving her the information again. And she still hadn't put it into a book.
It's interesting because I recently, you talk about abduction. I recently interviewed a gentleman who said he's been abducted by aliens. I'm sure that everyone who listened to the show was like, who the hell is this guy? And this guy sounds far-fetched. And it makes more sense now that you share your story, because he's been abducted for the last 50 years of his life. So you're saying that he's not retaining the information that has been given to him.
Well, it depends. I mean, there's different reasons for people being abducted. Doctors have removed tracking devices and things out of people that are made of metallic it's not known to the earth. So certain people are being abducted for other reasons. There's lots of different reasons. There's lots of different aliens out there. If anybody thinks we're the only species, they're sadly mistaken. And we're aliens to them at this point. Who knows how many other species there are in the universe? And just like we go and pick up animals and study them, they do the same thing to us if they're not some species that values life, right?
Sure. I think it's time to talk about these 2 books that you have. These are probably like your other children, I'm assuming.
Well, I've written 4 books so far. If you go to the website, juneedward.com, there are links to all of my books. The first one, A Night on the Other Side, is actually a book for people to learn how to develop their own psychic ability and mediumship ability. It's everything that I used to teach when I was teaching classes.
So, for example, in that book, give me one thing that I could do to maybe tap into my psychic ability, or someone who's listening to tap into their psychic ability.
Meditate. You should be meditating 3 times a day for 20 minutes, no more and no less. Set a timer, because until you're very proficient at it and you know what you're doing, it's going to take you 18 or 19 minutes to be able to connect with your soul. And you'll know it when it happens. But if you do it for longer than 20 minutes, you're going to become ungrounded as well. And what that means is you're going to be walking around like an airhead all day, which is not a good thing.
Not at all. And do people fall asleep at first? I mean, when they're trying to...
Well, they should be sitting up in a chair, feet on the floor. They should be protecting themselves first. Again, calling on Archangel Michael to protect them so that they don't... So when you open yourself up to the universe, you're opening yourself up for both good and evil. Okay. And if you have a good heart, you're a target. But until you should always meditate first thing in the morning because it sets the tone for the day. You should try to meditate if you can at least once in the same place, because they'll come waiting for you. 6 o'clock in the morning is when I meditate every morning in my living room. Guess what? My living room's full by the time I get out there. If I'm a few minutes late, they're all sitting around. Where are you?
Where have you been?
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is, number one, go to your website. This ain't for the faint of hearts. I take the information that you just shared with us very seriously, because we're talking about different planes, entities that may, like good or bad. Don't try to, I guess, don't shortcut this by any means.
Don't, because I've even had students that have gotten full-blown possessions because they were not protecting themselves prior to meditating. You cannot open yourself up to the universe without protecting yourself first. There is a lot of evil out there, and if you have a good heart, you're a target. Sure. And the name of the game, everybody's worried about politics. Well, guess what? It just plays out in politics. This is a war of good and evil on this earth right now. Been going on for thousands of years, but everything's out of balance, and everything has to get back into balance. And what does God want? Your soul. What does the devil want? Your soul. That's the prize. So this is what you have to protect, is your soul.
And people in general who, good, bad, or indifferent, who maybe just who have lived their life, who are doing their thing, maybe they haven't traditionally been faithful to going to church, things of that nature. You still go to heaven?
Unless you have taken a life and have no remorse, or you've literally sold your soul to the devil, you go to heaven. It's that simple. Gays are in heaven. People that have raped are in heaven. Again, there's a plan here. Everything happens for a reason. And lots of people come down here to play the bad guy because that's the role they need to play. It's just fact.
It's interesting when you say that. It's obviously there's always controversy and everything, but for us, I think that keeping everything down the middle of, keep an open mind, always keep an open heart, always listen. I find it to be very interesting because someone who is, I think for myself, and I'm speaking for myself and for anybody else who may be listening, who may be in that relationship rut, they can go to your website. We'll have the link posted. If you're watching us, it's scrolling down there, juneedward.com. They can purchase your book. They can book a session with you to spend some time with you, maybe connect on a different level to maybe find out, maybe to fix themselves. Maybe they need a Jiffy Lube oil change where they're going in to get a life, maybe just a quick check on how they might be able to be open-minded, be able to work on relationship issues. It is very different, and I think this show will be coming soon. But why is the culture of dating change? Let me rephrase that question. Why does it seem that love seems to be vastly changing to be, I want to say, instant top ramen, instant oatmeal, like it's quick, fast? I mean, we live in this fast-paced
because we're living in a world of instant gratification, which is demonic. It's part of the devil's plan, basically, right? Everybody wants everything now, immediately. That's one of the lessons people have to learn, is patience, because everything comes to you at the perfect time. Always.
I mean, come on, no one has patience. But you're right. You
have to learn patience.
Sure.
You have to. Suppose you're 12 years old. Oh, you want to get married. You want to have kids. Do you want to do that at 12 years old? Really? Maybe you're supposed to still graduate high school, get a college degree, become a doctor, right? And then at some point in time, guess what? You get married, you have children. It may be later, it may be earlier, but it happens at the perfect time. Whether you believe it or not, it's still the perfect time.
What about for those who have these premonitions? I would call them, like, you feel like you're having this moment in your life. You feel like someone's talking.
Deja vu?
Well, no, more like let's say they're like, okay, I lost my job. It's going to take me 5 years to recover. that doesn't pop in your brain. Someone's giving you that knowledge, right?
Because the knowledge, it comes from the other side. It's like when I opened one of my first biggest businesses, it was a daycare center. And I had a deli at the time. I was a trained chef. I knew nothing about the education system or opening a daycare center, but I just knew it was what I was supposed to do.
Sure.
Sold the deli, hunted down a building, only had 10 grand in my pocket, and it cost me 5 grand just for the rent. And I leased it with an option to buy in a year and had next to no money to renovate this place, right? But lo and behold, people came and worked with me. I'll give you I'll give you $100 a week, and I got this thing going and open and licensed for 125 kids. Had to go back to school to get my degree, had to hire all these. What I had to go through was but I knew I was supposed to do it. And people looked at me and goes, June, you're nuts. You're going to lose everything you've got. You don't have a clue. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to do this. That's your soul. That's the knowing. When you listen to that knowing, that is your soul. It will never take you down the wrong path. It will always be right 100% of the time.
And when you say that, it made me think of this too. When we have those gut, like, you're like,
that's
should I do this? And you're like, nope, you need to leave. That's that. Listen to what your inner.
When you go against your gut, when you go against your soul, it's going to bite you in the butt every single solitary time. I guarantee it.
So go with the gut is really our soul talking to us, really.
It is. Yeah, that's your soul.
So everyone out there listening who's gone against your soul, your gut, as we all say on this plane, listen to it. Because you don't know. I've never shared this story, but I'll share it with you. And what's interesting is we went grocery shopping. I must have been like 3 or 4 years old, very young. And we're in the suburbs of Seattle, and it's cold outside. My dad's putting the groceries in the truck. I'm running around playing around this pole that had one of those that was around the pole was one of those old newspaper stands where you put the quarter in and you open it up and you grab the newspaper. This is for the radio people who are listening. And it's chained to this pole, and it's cold outside. And my dad's like, hey, get in the car. We're going to leave. I'm still running around, having this great time. Then my dad says, get in the car now. So I run to the truck to get in. As he's buckling me in, 3 seconds later, you hear this screeching tires. You hear boom, and you see this car fly over the bush and hit that pole. Just wham.
Everything in life is timing, isn't it?
I was like, whoa. I was very young, but I was like, my dad's like, he said that you could have been, I could have been, I even to this day, I'm like, I look back and I was like, damn, that was close. Very close. And
everything happens for a reason. It's a wake-up call for you to pay attention.
For sure. I think that in life in general, I think always trying to have a clear mind to forgive those who may have wronged us. So at least in my relationships that may have ended, or however that may be for me, I want to have peace so I can move forward in my life.
So did they really wrong you, or was this something you were supposed to learn or teach them?
Sure.
This is what you have. As much as it sucks, because I hear it all the time from guys, oh, Jesus, June, does everything have to be a lesson? The reality of it is everything is a lesson. It's true.
Yeah. I value very much all those relationships and the things that I have learned that have made me a better person from those relationships. And now looking back, I'm like, wow, I really did learn a lot from those relationships. Our guest, June Edward, let's talk about this book. What are a couple of nuggets we can talk about all fair love and karma that we can share with people out who are listening, watching us, that need to go to the website to buy it, to purchase your book?
So again, there's 5 things you need to learn. And once you learn those 5 soul lessons, not only is your soul able to advance, but your life here will be absolutely incredible. So it starts with self-worth. unconditional love, trust and communication. You have to trust that there is a higher power. You have to trust that you created the plan here. And you have to be able to communicate your wants and needs to the people in your life, because we don't know by osmosis what it is you need, right?
Sure.
And everything is a form of communication. Even sex. If you can't trust and communicate outside the bedroom, you can't trust and communicate inside the bedroom. Unconditional love. Nothing's ever being done to you. It's always being done for you. You have to understand that. Okay. Everybody has their own plan and their own journey. And patience. Things come to you when it's supposed to. And another big one for everybody is money and balance. How come you can't keep any money in your life? Money's energy, right? If you understand how energy works, you'll understand the flow of money and how it works. And the more you put out, the more will come back to you, because the universe wants you to live in abundance. No one is supposed to live a life of lack.
When we talk about love, unconditional love, I guess the question is, do we get unconditional love from others, or is it more that we get unconditional love from our pets, our family member, the pets? Or we're so saddened by the passing of our pet, our dog or cat, our fish, whatever.
Unconditional love starts with you. You have to unconditionally love yourself first. Okay? Look in that mirror every day and love yourself. If there's something you don't like about yourself, change it. But you have to start with unconditional love with yourself. Then you can unconditionally love others. And if you're not getting unconditional love, that's got nothing to do with you. That's their issue and their problem and their plan, right? Unconditional love is from you. Suppose you have a child and you love them unconditionally, right? And they do something horrific, like they murder a neighbor in a fit of rage and they go to prison for the rest of their life. Clearly, you don't like what the child did. Hopefully, you're going to still love your child. That's unconditional love. Suppose,
You're right, because us being in the Pacific Northwest, probably people joke around and say this. We're probably home to the most, should I say, serial killers. Like, these serial killers all have moms and fathers, and I'm sure that their moms and dads still unconditionally love them, even though they
not necessarily. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it was a karmic relationship and they just gave them birth. Okay. But again, it's not receiving, it's giving. I can't teach you to love me unconditionally. Okay. But I can send you love unconditionally. You don't have to do anything to me in order for me to love you and want you to have a wonderful life.
Sure. And for let's say when you're walking out there and you're smiling at people, is that love? Is like that? Is that a piece of?
It's a form of it. Yeah, it's a form of it. Even a smile, you don't know what that's going to do to change the next person's life. Maybe that's all they needed that day, was to see you smile. Maybe that's all they needed. Maybe they were having such a bad day just to see one happy person out there. People have to remember, nothing's ever done to you. It's always done for you, for your highest and best, to help you learn these lessons, to help you learn unconditional love.
Man, I feel so like I need to go out and just give someone a big old hug now.
Exactly. We need that physical contact. Everyone needs that. We're in this 3D body. It's about being there for each other. And a lot of people just don't get that connection. They can be the most miserable SOB in the world, your next door neighbor, right? Oh, don't cut my grass. Don't take your dog near me, blah, blah, blah.
Why do
just
you do
go over
that?
and say, you know what? Okay, give them a big hug. Maybe that's all they needed, because no one's done that for them.
Oh, Stephen, you just need a big old hug, I say that with my coworker sometimes.
My parents had never hugged me as a child.
Oh,
they were extremely abusive. They came, they were German. They were very stoic. You didn't do PDAs, public displays of affection. They didn't do that. And when I was about 28 or 29, and they were divorced for years, I went and talked to each one of them separately. And I gave them a hug and told them that I love them and I forgive whatever it was, all the damage that they thought they caused. Look, I'm still okay and I love you. And I gave them each a hug. And they just both broke down and cried. They were just so grateful that, number one, I had forgiven them. And number 2, to tell them that I love them. And number 3, to have that physical contact that they never get and give them a hug. They were just beyond.
Not only do we do paranormal stuff, but we also talk. This is probably one of the most fascinating. I mean, we did done some really cool shows, but this, I think, really sets the plane back for what's been going on just in the tumultuous world that we definitely live in. Headlines like the other night, oh, doomsday's coming, or World War III, and
we just entered the age of Aquarius. It's going to be absolutely amazing in this world for the next 200 years.
Dun, 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 dun,
it's going to keep getting better and better.
Yeah,
exactly.
For all those young ones that don't know, it's been fun to hang out with you this evening. Our guest, June Edward, who has a website. Go visit her website. She's a psychic medium. She's an author. She's a relationship expert. Go to her website if you're looking. Maybe you have questions. Book some time with her. We'll have the links in the bio. If you're not a subscriber to the podcast, go to my website, onairmario.com. You can just click on the podcast link, and that will take you right to the podcast, and you can listen to the entire interview, or you can even watch us on onairmario.com. Again, our guest, author, relationship expert, psychic medium. Before we leave, did you see anything around me that I should be...
I see lots of things, but I don't go into that when I'm on the show.
She's probably like, oh, there's the boogie monster behind you.
No.
But do people ask when they're in a session, like, will you explain to them and say, hey, look, there's some bad entities around you. This is to protect themselves?
It really depends what someone's contacting me for.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's specific to what. So you're gonna key in and focus and lock in on what that person's need versus saying.
Well, they'll tell me. They'll ask, and I'll tell them.
Sure.
I have all kinds. People come to me for all kinds of things. Many, many, many things.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure to have you come on the show this evening to share your insights, your thoughts, sharing what's on the other side. Because hey, look, not a lot of us really don't know, and have lost loved ones recently, and ask what's on the other side.
I didn't know either till I died, and I'm really grateful that I did, and I'm glad I came back.
And for those who may have recently lost a loved one, I know the holiday season's upon us, and to honor those our loved ones,
set an extra plate at the dinner table. You know, they'll show up. They'll live vicariously through you. If you're having a good time, they will as well.
Again, it's been a pleasure to have you come on. If anybody wants to find June, you can go to her website, which is juneedward.com. Any last parting words that you'd like to share with our audience?
Enjoy the holidays. Remember those people out there that don't have anybody, and maybe include somebody.
For my entire team, Mark Christopher, Sophia Magana, and myself, Mario Magana, be sure to look up at the sky, because you never know what you might see. Good night.